welcome in to 2-for-1 Draft, PFF's Rookies and Draft Prospects podcast. We are streaming live on YouTube every Tuesdays and Thursday. And we're also, you can catch us on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. If you are watching on YouTube, ticker below, that'll be flying in here soon. We'll have PFF's latest mock draft. Dive into that if you'd like. YouTube, always a good thing. You can see me, you can see Renner. He dresses okay.
I was going to say, is that a good thing, seeing us?
You know, I wish I dressed better. I've said it and I'll say it again. My fashion sense is pretty piss poor, but we're just going to keep diving into this one. On today's episode, we're not going to be just talking about our fashion sense. We'll be bringing up what's on tap, previewing some of the top prospect matchups of the weekend. We also got our draft specials, talking about some rookies here that we haven't talked about a ton on the podcast. I think we've been hammering some of the same names, hammering specifically Garrett Bradbury for how poorly he's been playing. But also, we're
there have been offensive linemen that have been worse, though.
Exactly.
We'll touch on them.
Yeah, which is exciting. And then we'll also do a little Microbrew segment. That's where we bring up a small school prospect that maybe you haven't heard of, but you should be hearing about. And then a local IPA. Something that you should be, he's a big school guy, but you probably haven't caught on to him yet. So local IPAs.
They're different. They're different segments.
Exactly. Different segments, but they'll be fun ones. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. We've already brought up fashion sense enough. What's on tap? We're going to be breaking this down by day, starting with Thursday. SMU, Shane Buechele, Reggie Robertson, James Prochet. I'm saying Prochet. I don't care if it's Proche. Prochet sounds cooler. At Houston. Talk to me about Buechele first.
This is a cool one. I'm excied for this one.
This is a cool one. I like that.
Thursday. No, the only game Thursday night. Obviously, Houston, Josh Jones, we've talked about him a bunch. He's probably going to dominate in this one. But Buechele's the guy I want to watch going up against a Houston defense that is pretty bad. 128th in our coverage rank so far this year. But Buechele has shown a lot more than he did early on in his career at Texas. Now, that's obvious. He's already a senior now. This is his fourth year in college. As a freshman, sophomore, dude just wanted to sling it around the yard. Didn't really care if guys were open or not. He was going to be going deep. Now he still kind of has a little bit of that to him. 10.6 ADOT, 10.6 yards downfield. This is average depth of target. That's still pretty deep. 19 big time throws, still second in the country.
Tied for second
with some special throws with Joe Burrow.
Yes.
Tied for second in the country with Joe Burrow. So he makes some special throws down the field. Can play on the move, which I love to see. Outside the pocket, second reaction plays, he is fantastic at that. Ball placement's still an issue. He's still not necessarily the most accurate guy with football, but he is intriguing. What I've seen from him this year is a lot different than we saw in years past. I'm intrigued about what he can be as a prospect. I think he's a guy who, if he went to something like the Senior Bowl, could help him a lot because what the competition he's faced at SMU, not great. Hopefully SMU stays undefeated, goes to a nice little bowl, and we get to see him there. But so he actually is he's been all over the place in terms of accuracy. He has a high uncatchable pass rate, 23% this year. Guys like Tua, Burrow, Eason, they're all below 16%. So that's a high off-target rate of just completely uncatchable. But he is 10th in the country in terms of perfectly placed balls.
Oh,
so he's got
like a roller coaster a little bit.
I was gonna say he's got a little bit of a roller coaster-ness to him. Very #fun to watch kind of guy. But I do think he's playing his way up draft boards with his performance this year at SMU.
I can get on board with the roller coaster. I want to stay on Buechele before we dive in the receivers at SMU on Buechele and specifically the stat big-time throws. So for those of you who don't know, big-time throws are kind of mentioned a lot on all of PFF's podcasts. Those are PFF's highly graded throws on the -2 to +2 scale. So if you don't know, we grade every single player on every single play on -2 to +2. The throws that are 1.0 or higher get graded as big-time throws. These are our special throws down the field into tight windows. And if you look at this stat, your guy, Tyler Johnston of UAB, Mr. Small Hands, but big-time throws. He makes up in hand size. He makes up for what he lacks in hand size with big-time throws. He pushes the ball downfield. But speaking of roller coaster, 26 big-time throws, college football high, 17 turnover-worthy plays. That guy definitely is up and down as they come. And then you go to Joe Burrow and Shane Buechele, tied for second with 19 big-time throws. And right below that, a name we'll bring up later, Anthony Gordon with 18 big-time throws and 17 turnover-worthy plays. Another roller coaster that you'd probably rather jump off than stay on board with.
It'll make you sick.
Exactly.
You're
just throwing up all over the place, like a Jameis Winston roller coaster. But let's go ahead and talk about Shane Buechele and his receivers specifically. We haven't talked about Reggie Roberson and James Prochet a ton. These guys are producing very well with Buechele at the helm. What's your take on those two?
Yeah, we talked about Prochet. I'm actually probably more a fan of his than Roberson. Prochet, good underneath, intermediate route runner, I think. And my favorite part about him was great ball skills and he goes over the middle. He's a guy who a lot of slot receivers, undersized guys, aren't going to be making that catch with the linebacker bearing down on him, getting hit. He will be. So I think that is a guy who may not necessarily look the part at 5'11", 190. Doesn't necessarily win a ton from the outside, although he does play from the outside there at SMU sometimes. But I think that his skill set is one that NFL QBs will like, because NFL QBs like when they're not getting hung out to dry by their receivers. Proche will not be hanging any QB out to dry anytime soon.
Doesn't look the part. 5'11", 190 is the new wide
That is
receiver
true.
in the NFL.
I know,
I
yeah.
like that. I like receivers of those size that can create separation, have some suddenness in their routes. Looking at this, his stats specifically, he ranks 9th in the country in yards per route, in receiving grade so far this year. I think that's fantastic. A concern I see in the stats though, 21 contested catch opportunities, only 9 receptions. You'd like to see him come down with more of those?
Yeah, I mean, that's never going to be
his game.
When you like to see the guys who should, the 6'3", 225 guys, if they're 9 for 21, that's a concern. Mm-hmm. If you're at that rate and that's not ever going to be your game, I'm not super worried about that.
Let's go ahead and go to our next game here, Friday edition, USC at Colorado, a little Montez. But I'm going on USC's side. There's some receivers in this game.
A wide receiver
Michael
talent
Pittman,
all around
I
here.
like. Laviska Shenault for Colorado. If you want to watch a wide receiver showdown, I think this is a great game to watch. You won't be throwing up as much. I think there's less roller coaster QBs in this one. But I think it will be a good one to watch Pittman and Laviska work.
Yeah, I want to see Laviska just get some opportunities. He's been targeted 18 times, 10-plus yards down the field. Like, that's
unacceptable.
3 times a game. That's awful. Like, that's not – he should be getting 6 to 8 targets that far down the field. He should be getting just pumped vertical routes. Like, he is your offense there at Colorado. Not to put it too bluntly, but you don't have a lot of talent. You're Colorado. I'm sorry. Give your mans the ball a little more than he's been getting the ball here, because – that, from a scouting perspective, is basically all we need to sort of confirm for him is that downfield ability, because when he has the ball in his hands, still electric, still one of the most dynamic receivers in college football. Just let him rip down the field. I mean, Montez, you're not helping your stock by not targeting him.
Yeah, I really do think they need to get him involved more in the vertical passing game. He's shown that explosiveness sometimes when not targeted. I remember you went in and watched his routes. Didn't even look at his targets, watched his routes on the All-22 and saw that explosiveness, that second gear he does have. The problem is Montez isn't using it. That Colorado offense isn't using it. Let me see him in one-on-one situations, running this vertical route tree and dominating, and then you can start to legitimately elevate his stock. Less projection and more like, no, we've seen this before. He can do this in the NFL. For the USC side, we've talked about Michael Pittman a little bit here. What are you looking from him? I think we know what we want to see from Laviska, but what do you want to see from Michael Pittman? What more does he kind of have to prove?
I'm not sure there's a ton more he has to prove.
You kind of know what he is. You know what I mean?
He is what he is at this point, and it's a very good. Just keep winning your contest situations. Keep showing that no matter what defensive back you're going up against, you will be physically dominant at the catch point versus that defensive back. Just keep showing that. I think that's the biggest thing he has to prove at this point is he's never going to be he's never going to be Jerry Jeudy in terms of routing ability, in terms of separation ability. He's never going to be wide open down the football field consistently. But you don't have to be that necessarily to win at the NFL at a high rate. Can you do all the other little things at a consistently high level? That's the tick box he needs to show, because can he establish himself with a pretty strong ass wide receiver core there for USC, Tyler Vaughns, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Can you be the guy in that offense? I think that remains to be seen.
I would agree with that 100%. I think in continuing to show that he's a great contested catch receiver and very sure-handed even when open. I think he only 2 drops in his career. I think somewhere around that number. Yeah. Pittman being a sure-handed.
I'm not I'm pretty sure he's sure-handed at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
You've shown enough at this point.
Let's go to Saturday's slate here. Wisconsin at Ohio State, a big game, which should have been an even bigger game if Wisconsin didn't drop an L to Reggie Corbin and the Illinois Illini. That was very, very surprising.
Memorial Stadium was rocking.
I think they were 28-point favorites or something. Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, and at
Lovie
Illinois,
Smith's beard got grayer and longer as the game progressed. I think he was just getting wiser. It looked like Santa Claus by the end of the game. Like, wow, I didn't know Santa was on the sideline.
And it's not like you went to Nebraska or someone who's like a traditionally strong program, going to have a huge, maybe a bad team this year, but has like the fans are rocking, and all of a sudden like you got down, and it was just you couldn't. It was so loud you couldn't come back. You guys panicked. Memorial Stadium has about 10,000 fans there on a weekly basis. Illinois does. No one cares. I'm from Champaign, Illinois. No one cared about Illinois football. I had friends that went to school there, did not even go to the games, didn't go to one game in 4 years, and were football fans. Embarrassing for Wisconsin. Very embarrassing.
Illini. Reggie Corbin, though, had a good game in that one. I do love Reggie Corbin. I kind of liked him going into this year. But let's get back to the program here. Wisconsin at Ohio State. We're going to see PFF's highest graded pass rusher in the country. And he's far and away the highest graded pass rusher in the country. Chase Young go against Cole Van Lanen, who had a little bit of a shaky game this past week against Illinois. Yeah. Now he's going to probably have an even worse game against Chase Young. No one has good games against Chase Young. The guy feasts on people. Yeah. Cole Van Lanen, I think, is in for a rough one.
Yeah, Van Lanen, we talked about it on the early week pod, his problems with his base and pass pro. I think, though, what ends up happening this game is Wisconsin, even if they fall down early, their run-pass split is going to be like 75-85% run, 25-20% pass, just because they really don't have the horses along that offensive line to block Ohio State. Not a lot of people do, and maybe no one does in the country. I'm not sure, because this is a damn good defensive line. Chase Young, though, versus Cole Van Lanen, the matchup to watch among that group.
Let's also bring up Quintez Cephas, a guy who missed the 2018 season with some off-field things. Not
sexual assault.
Exactly. Not diving into that a ton, but he only had 39 targets in 2017, but earned an 89.2 receiving grade, just one drop on the year. I thought he looked very good after the catch. I liked his explosive ability. And now in this year, an 81.7 receiving grade in 2019, has just 2 drops this year, 1 interception, 1 target. I think Quintez Cephas, I really liked him in 2017. Obviously, with 2018, him sitting out, forgot him.
No one liked him.
No one liked him. Fell off the radar, really. And now in 2019, he's starting to create some buzz for himself again.
Yeah, I think he's a very NFL-ready body at the wide receiver position at about 6'1", 210. Very sudden also, I think, and like you said, good after the catch. Long speed, nothing special, but I like his ball skills, 5'6" in contested situations this year. So a nice test for him, and a nice test for the Ohio State cornerbacks. You got Jeffrey Okudah there, the slot cornerback whose name is escaping me right at the moment, that I probably should know off the top of my head. Sean Wade, those two. So it'll be a nice test because he plays from the slot as well, Cephas, at times. So I think that is a nice little matchup where, unfortunately, probably, like I said, probably won't get to see it because they're probably just going to run the ball all day long.
Yep. All right, let's move forward here. Mississippi State at Texas A&M. I am very much looking forward to this one because I practically fell in love with. Borderline went on one knee and asked this guy to marry me after the Ole Miss game. Justin Matabuke looked fantastic against Ole Miss. Yeah. Really exploded in that game. I think he had 7 pressures, very high pass rush grade, explosive off the snap. And what I love the most, he won from a zero-tech alignment.
Yes.
Beating centers with speed, with quickness from that alignment is very hard. We saw that with Ed Oliver, who's a freakish athlete of his own, doing that at Houston and struggling. I think Justin Matabuke really opened my eyes. Like I said, I almost married the guy. He's going against Darrell Williams of Mississippi State.
He probably would have
said yes, but I mean, I do keep laying the groundwork in the DMs. I do keep laying the groundwork. So bring up that matchup between Darrell Williams and Matabuke.
So this one's another it's like a strength versus strength matchup. Matabuke, you said his first step, quickness, all there. Darrell Williams, probably the most athletic or the smoothest offensive lineman in the country, in my opinion, or smooth interior offensive lineman in the country in terms of just the dude gets off the snap quickly, climbs his second level quickly. He can mirror any defensive tackle he wants to in pass pro when he goes up against strength. He's the Garrett Bradbury of offensive linemen in this class. And we've talked about Garrett Bradbury a lot, but Garrett Bradbury is still a very good offensive lineman prospect. I still believe in him as an NFL player. Down the line, he just was not strong enough to hold up to a lot.
He's a former tight end. He got recruited to NC State to play tight end, packed on a freshman 15 and then some, and started playing center.
Yeah, so he just needs to add more strength to his frame. That is Darrell Williams. That is Darrell Williams. Darrell Williams does not. He has just struggled switching to center this year, going up against larger nose tackles. He is not a line of scrimmage mover. He's more of a controller, more of a guy who wins with technique and athleticism rather than pure power. And so he goes up against someone like Derrick Brown earlier this year and just gets literally just walked back in the backfield. Derrick Brown didn't even have a move. Derrick Brown ran a straight line. Yeah. And that was him going in the backfield because he does not have the power to hold up. So this one is strength versus strength. I think Williams ultimately, I really like him as a prospect still. Like I said, I still think he's probably a day 2 guy in this class, but just needs to get stronger. And I think guard might end up being his best position because you're going up against 3 techs in the NFL.
Smaller
quicker, dudes. Smaller, but still, I'd like to see him in this matchup. I think he ends up winning this matchup against Matabuke.
That's a good distinction, though. With the center position, you are more protected, even more in a phone booth. We see in PFF's pass protection.
You don't have to be a great athlete.
You see it in PFF's pass protection metric. It's harder to allow pressure from the center position than it is guard, and it's harder at tackle than it is.
It's more double.
Exactly. And then, but at guard, you do see less beefcakes. You're not seeing these monsters of the middle. You're seeing 3 techniques, some smaller frame guys. So I think that's a good distinction. Let's keep moving forward here. We're going to talk Cameron Dantzler a little bit. Hold me closer, Tiny Dantzler. He's going against Kendrick Rogers and Courtney Davis. Dantzler looks fantastic. I think he eats this matchup.
I was going to say, I think that Dantzler in this one really flexes his muscles, even though he doesn't have a ton of muscles. He's only 185. It's a skinnier corner that we've talked about, but he has the pterodactyl-esque length
Ooh.
to shut down. If I'm a Mississippi State, I have him press Kendrick Rogers all game, Texas A&M wide receiver, because that dude, we've talked about it before, I think, on this podcast, he cannot get off press. A lot of people love his highlight reel catchability. Probably going to have like a 40-something inch vertical. The guy can sky, but he is not explosive, not quick off the line of scrimmage. I expect Dantzler to have a game, maybe like a 0-catch, 2-target sort of game in this one. I just don't think he's going to lose a lot.
Talk to me about Courtney a little bit. He's a guy that we haven't brought up a ton. Plays for Texas A&M, only 2 targets, 1 reception for 15 yards against Ole Miss. But how's this guy?
I'm not a big fan of either of these receivers. I don't think Courtney Davis is one who should necessarily declare after this season. I just don't think that you don't see now. One, they're playing with Kellermont there, Texas A&M. Give him a little bit of a pass there.
Yeah.
But I just don't see the downfield explosiveness, being able to separate that sort of thing from either of these guys. So unfortunately, they've gotten some. I don't want to say hype. They're on the draft radar. I foresee Davis being a guy who come back to school sort of grade.
Doing a little name scouting in this next one, Auburn at LSU. Lloyd Cushenberry. I'm all in on that. However, looking at his grade so far this year, he has not really performed up to expectation. He earned an 85.6 pass blocking grade for LSU in 2018, just a 56.7 pass blocking grade so far with LSU. Still a good matchup to watch because he's going against Derrick Brown. And Derrick Brown, though he's improved late, we still want to see him continue to be a great pass rusher. I think this is an opportunity to prove it again.
So this is another great matchup because it's a strength for strength sort of thing. Cushenberry is a phone booth type of center. He is not. He has not handled stunts well this year. Has not handled guys with quickness, going up against guys with quickness at center position well this season for LSU. But he does not get moved backwards off the line of scrimmage, or has not by the guys he's faced. He's going up against a different little animal this year, or this game, in Derrick Brown, who Derrick Brown moves basically everyone off the line of scrimmage. So I'm excited to see that. I'm not sure how much nose Derrick Brown necessarily will be playing this game. I'm hoping for a ton, because this is a nice little matchup that we'll get to see for both in terms of NFL sort of projection. Because while Cushenberry hasn't graded well this year, we have him a 4th-round grade. I know friend of the program, guys whose name is
best friend,
me.
dude. Sounds like your best friend.
Dane Brugler has him as a top 50 player on his latest draft board. So Lloyd Cushenberry is a top 50 player on his latest draft board. So there is a lot to like about him. Only a junior at this point, Cushenberry, so he could come back to school. I might think he might come back to school after the year he's having, like you said, 56.7 pass blocking grade so far. But a big test for him. If he wins this against Derrick Brown, he could, that's tape that will come back to that he could end up declaring after
One of the few podcasts that we haven't brought up Above Average Joe on, but this is a good matchup for him too. Derrick Brown, good Auburn defense. I think it's going to be fun to watch and continue to fun to watch.
And it's also nice for him in terms of Justin Herbert pooped his pants against Oregon, to put it nicely. At the end of the game.
That nicely?
That wasn't that nice, you're right. But he threw the ball, 10 yards out the back of the end zone the last play of the game. Like what we've talked about. But what was he thinking?
You don't want to see poop in anybody's pants.
As long as he doesn't do that, I think he outplays Herbert. Like if you can go back to the tape, it'll be one of those things that both are going to be in the draft this upcoming year. You go back to the tape for both against Auburn, common opponent. Herbert looked not great. I expect Burrow to look a lot better than Herbert did. And that'll be a tick mark in his favor.
Let's stay in the SEC. Arkansas at Alabama. Tight end Cheyenne O'Grady. He's a guy that has flashed like some legitimate potential in bursts here. I mean, at the tight end position, I feel like flash is a good word because production is you struggle to have consistent production at the tight end position in some college offenses. He's going against Xavier McKinney and Shaheem Carter, 2 great defensive backs for Alabama that mix in the slot, play some safety here and there. I think this is going to be very interesting to see O'Grady.
And he has 359 yards on the season after having 400 last year, and he's actually been missed. He has the Jared Pinkney thing going on too, where he's been missed a ton down the field. He could have well over 500 yards with how many times he's been missed down the football field, wide open for Arkansas this season, especially early on in the year. But I love him after the catch. I think he's one of the best tight ends after the catch in the country. Already 8 broken tackles on 29 catches. You probably may have seen the highlight against Colorado State when literally the whole Colorado State team was on him, and he breaks it for a touchdown. I really like his game. He might end up passing Pinkney on our board when it's all said and done if Pinkney just keeps doing Pinkney things this year. But Cheyenne O'Grady, get to know the name. He could qualify as the local IPA that you've never heard of later on. But we've talked about him enough that I don't think it does for the people out there. But I think Cheyenne O'Grady easily a top 3 tight end prospect in this class.
When you said he's got the Jared Pinkney thing going on, I thought it was just he was playing poorly. But I guess it's him being missed downfield.
Being missed by QB.
So Shyheim Carter, I think when you look at other draft scouts or like draft analysts, you're looking at him as a top defensive back in this class. It's not a name we brought up a ton, actually. Plays 288 snaps, defensive snaps at slot corner. That's far and away the biggest position he does play there. I think. Talk to me about him and where you're projecting him right now.
He's a very football player-y sort of slot cornerback where he kind of like a Taylor Rapp where it's like he doesn't do anything poorly.
Okay.
He's going to tackle well. He's going to play run defense extremely well. He's going to do he's going to do the little things well. I'm not sure he's necessarily a playmaker at that position. And also when you are a slot cornerback, that's fine. You can be solid at that position, but then what are you putting the value on that? Because you're not going to. We've seen guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick who just played the exact same position that Carter did try to play outside corner for the Dolphins. It didn't go well when he was trying to play out there. So you're it's a very different skill set. The slot. It's more similar to a safety than it is to an actual cornerback or I guess outside cornerback. So where this more comes into the value. How do you value a guy who doesn't make a ton of plays on the football and plays the slot? I don't know. I'm not sure.
To be fair,
but he's very
good coverage in the slot is very valuable,
yeah.
Especially as we see offenses more and more run 11 personnel and target the slot as often as they do in the NFL. I think Carter does have a valuable role if he can play well in slot coverage. I want to also bring up the same question about Xavier McKinney. He's played more of a Jamal Adams, Derwin James type of role in that he plays everywhere. 139 defensive snaps in the box, whether it's linebackers, strong safety alignments, slot corner, another 154 defensive snaps, and then free safety, he's back there deep 142 times this year as well. This is a guy 6'1", 200 pounds that is playing everywhere for this defense and is earning good grades so far this year.
Yeah, one of the best tacklers in all of college football, only 2 misses on 52 attempts this year for Xavier McKinney. And he's almost like a poor man Jamal Adams in that role. I don't think he's the explosive. I don't see him taking on blocks the way Jamal Adams did back at LSU in terms of just like he looked like he could play linebacker even at 200 pounds at the NFL level and wouldn't look out of place. That's how good he was in that regard. I don't see that from McKinney, but I see that sort of diverse skill set, and I get why people like McKinney. I just think he's sort of he's more of a tweener than a versatile piece. He's going to do a lot. You could put him in a lot of positions. I don't think he's going to do a lot of things extremely well at those positions. Those also.
So we're going to go ahead and Michigan, Notre Dame. Talk about a big matchup for the alma mater here. I want to talk about the Michigan's defensive line first because I think we've
not
brought
that big. Michigan's not that good.
We brought up multiple. I think the Michigan's favored in this one. Are they not?
No, Notre Dame They might have opened favor, but Notre Dame's back as a favorites now.
Lucky, so. You're lucky. But we talk about this Michigan defensive line a lot. But I think of those guys, you got Michael Dana, Josh Uche, Kwity Paye. These guys are grading well in PFF system. Yep. Yes, they've done a lot of those high grades against cupcakes, as we've said in the past. But are any of these guys, and if so, which one are you seeing as kind of the most prominent or dominant prospect with prospect potential?
I think Uche, because Josh Uche is
it Uche
the best
or
one.
Uche?
I don't know.
Let's just go Uche.
Yeah, Uche sounds cooler.
I like Uche.
Uche, I think, is
Gucci.
I think he has the.
Go ahead, keep going.
He has the bend and the athleticism to play. A little undersized, only listed about 245. I think could come in. Could probably get up to 250 at this point. But I do think he has the quicks and like I said, the bend to be able to win at the next level. Other guys, I don't see Dana being
a bender.
He was more of a power player who was not explosive enough and powerful enough for that to translate even against Power 5 tackles. And I think we've seen that this year with Dana transferring from Central Michigan. He dominated Group of 5 MAC tackles. Has not done it so far here at Michigan. But Uche, I think, is the best one of that group. And this is a good test for Liam Eichenberg against Uche because I've worried about Eichenberg's lateral agility. I just don't see him having that quick feet that you want to hold up at tackle that you would draft, first, second, third type of round. Even though he's gotten a good deal of hype, was a high 4-star. Some services had him as a 5-star coming out as a recruit, and been a multi-year starter for Notre Dame. But I don't necessarily see it. We saw it against Charles Snowden, the Virginia edge, who just with an inside move, no necessarily hand usage, just got past Eichenberg because Eichenberg didn't have the foot speed to mirror. So that's the biggest question mark for me. Uche against Eichenberg will be a good matchup to watch.
In that same game, though, we have Donovan Peoples-Jones, DPJ, going against Tony Pride Jr., TPJ. And I think this is a matchup to watch for more than just,
OTP.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
But Tony Pride, a track star, but struggles with ball skills, in your opinion and my opinion. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think it's very very similar. I think this is a guy that creates moves well downfield. Is a very good athlete. Came as a high-star recruit. What are you seeing in this matchup?
That's the thing. Is Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think will test well athletically, but for some reason or another, I don't see creativity of setting up defensive backs to get open down the football field. I just have not, and it's borne out in the stats. I mean, he's only averaging 10 yards per catch, a little over 10 yards per catch this year. He's not been a downfield threat. One catch so far this season has gone for over 20 yards. He's not. He's been an underneath possession guy at 6'2", 208. That's been him his entire career, even though I think he was a 5-star coming out of high school, was billed as a fantastic athlete. We've never quite seen it. And Shea Patterson, for all his shortcomings, I don't think he's one who's going to not throw down the football field. He has no real problem with that. So Donovan Peoples-Jones, this is probably not a great matchup for him. It's one where I want to see, on the other side, Pride make plays on those back shoulder throws, make plays in those contested situations, because I think he'll be able to stick in Peoples-Jones' hip pocket. But will he be able to make plays on the football? Because that's Peoples-Jones' sort of bread and butter, is the more possession intermediate route tree.
3 more Saturday games we want to go over before we dive into our draft specials and talk about some rookies in the NFL. Missouri at Kentucky. Logan Stenberg against Jordan Elliott. Elliott, I like this guy. Very good interior pass rusher for Missouri. He also plays very well against the run. 6'4", 300+ pounds. He's had a very good start to this year, and I really do like him in this defensive tackle class.
Yeah, this will be a nice little draft matchup. Elliott now 91.2 pass rushing grade, 90.3 run defense grade. I believe he's the only defensive tackle in the country right now with a 90+ in both
double
run
90s?
Defense and pass rushing.
Nothing gets me more excited than a couple double 90s.
And he's going up against Stenberg, who I think has only allowed 1 pressure this year so far still, the guard for Kentucky. Now, Kentucky's sort of transitioned to wide receiver-led offense where they don't pass a lot.
Yeah.
So this would be more of a run game matchup. But the big thing for me is, can Stenberg stop committing penalties? The dude has committed
you're right.
10 penalties already on the season through 7 games. He committed 10 penalties last year. This might be a little Garrett Bowles situation on our hands where the dude's just going to keep committing penalties.
Don't put that on
I know.
him.
But Garrett Bowles led the nation in penalties last year at Utah, and has basically been top 5, top 10 among O-linemen every single year of his career.
He holds his own. Come on. It was kind of good. I thought it was okay.
Laugh track, but hit it.
We could have used it. California at Utah. Speaking of Utah, Tyler Huntley, this quarterback. I think he's an interesting prospect with some athleticism.
Yes.
I think you don't put him in the conversation with better pocket passers like Joe Burrow and them, but talk to me about Huntley.
So he had a 91.1 grade going into last week's game against Arizona State. Really did not look the part last week against Arizona State. We actually broke it down, me and Bruce Gradkowski on the YouTube channel.
I was about to bring it up. Talk to me about your relationship with Bruce and how that's developing.
Bruce is guiding me through this quarterback journey that we're on.
So a little pause here. I sit across from Bruce when he does come into the office. He works from home a lot, still lives out there in Toledo. Yeah. Insight out of his ears, just constantly providing knowledge over there. We order Chipotle together. Bruce Gradkowski Venmo'd me for Chipotle. I never thought I'd be in this spot, but that's where we're at right now.
This was like your DM stories, but in real life.
In real life, yeah. So when I was growing up, I'm from Oakland. Season tickets to Oakland Raiders game. Bruce Gradkowski, that game against the Steelers, it was in Pittsburgh, so I wasn't there. But it was arguably one of the best childhood memories I had because they came back and won that game. One of the first times he was hired, we watched that game together on the TV, and it was surreal. And now he's Venmoing me for Chipotle. It's fantastic. The Bruce Gradkowski experience at PFF is fantastic. Also, stuff that we can't really bring up on the podcast, but his stories about Jamarcus Russell and that Oakland Raiders team are absolutely fantastic.
Basically, everything you've heard. But worse.
Yeah, think about all the negative things you heard about Jamarcus Russell, and then put an exclamation point after them because it legitimately happened. And Bruce Gradkowski was, there watching it and witnessing it. So back to Tyler Huntley, though. I know you and Bruce are talking about.
Yeah, he's kind of got a weak arm. That's going to limit him, but he's very athletic. I mean, he's on the probably Deshaun Watson-esque in terms of athlete, and where he can create outside the pocket. He can create in terms of the run game. He can be an add-on in that regard. He's not going to be Lamar Jackson. He's not Kyler Murray. That's probably a different level, different tier of quarterback runners, but he will hold his own as a runner. So I think his spot will be, I think he'll get drafted in the NFL late round, but he'll be like a backup to a guy like Deshaun Watson. He'll be a backup to
like
a guy.
Trace McSorley type.
Yeah, like that sort of thing, because for the most part, have been making good decisions with the football. Only one turnover play heading into the Arizona State game. 2 really bad decisions. A slant that he just stared down, threw it right to the
You're
DB.
into 28.8 passing grade.
It was ugly. One completion past the sticks, but he's been good in terms of when to take chances with the football down the field, and I think that's what you want to see from a guy who can use his legs, can escape. Are they not making the mistakes with the football down the football field, or instead of when it's this is a little risky situation, instead of making that throw, break the pocket, get some yards on your own as a runner. That adds value to an offense. So I think Tyler Huntley has a future in the NFL. But this will be a nice little test for him because, again,
Cal's defense is no slouch.
Yes, Cal's got a good defense. Arizona State has a good defense. Didn't happen against Arizona State. But if you can do it against Cal, maybe we can talk a little bit more.
And in this game, you speak of that Cal defense, you know who we also have in this one? Our guy, Evan Weaver. He's the guy, if you go back and watch the podcast after.
Evan Weaver trying to track down Tyler Huntley.
It would be fantastic. But go back and listen to the episode after College Football Week 5. We throw up the Evan Weaver interview where he tells a reporter who asked him how the game went or something like that is, I don't know, you watch the game, you tell me. Yeah. And then he finishes a very angry interview with Go Bears. It's fantastic. Evan Weaver, football guy. He's the guy that has the red crease on his helmet after the first quarter somehow is one too tight. Evan Weaver, though, definitely a guy.
He'll be playing with blood on his face at some point.
Yes.
In the near future.
100%.
Yeah.
And enjoying it. Eating it off. I like that. Wazoo at Oregon. This is going to be our last preview of this little segment here. Anthony Gordon, he's putting up big numbers. We talked about it a little bit when we went into big-time throws. People are wanting to fall in love with this kid because Mustache Minshew's lighting up the NFL. Yeah. Talk to me about Anthony Gordon. Give me the skinny.
But, the last time he played – a very good defense. So against Oregon's good defense. Now, Diamador Lenoir, I've talked about him. Troy Dye, the linebacker, we haven't talked much about him, but he's very good in coverage as well. So this is a good pass defense. Last time he faced a very good pass defense, Utah, things did not go well. That was the game he had something like 7 turnover-worthy plays, only 7 picks on the year. So the stats look nice, but we talked about how the turnover-worthy throws he does is leading the nation, second most in the nation?
So somewhere up there. So he has 18 big-time throws, and 17 turnover-worthy plays. To compare, Tyler Johnston, the UAB small hands, has 26 big-time throws and 17 turnover-worthy plays. So I think you'd like to, if you are going to be, risky, you're going to need to make some more big plays similar to what Tyler Johnston's doing.
And so this will be a nice in terms of going up against a real defense. Can you not just to use the term we used earlier, poop your pants?
Yeah.
Can we actually
at any point in any college football game, if you poop your pants, it's going to have a negative effect on your draft stock. I think that's something we just need to be clear about. In that same game, we got a nice little matchup here. My guy, Aesop Winston Jr., a guy that I bring up constantly on this podcast because Renner hates it, but he will be going against Diamador Lenoir, a guy who plays a ton of outside corner, a ton of press at Oregon. We saw what Aesop did to Darnay Holmes in press. I'm predicting a similar buttery matchup where he sauces this guy at the line. Diamador finds a way to return to school, and Aesop just goes into the NFL and just dominates. That's what I'm seeing here, Mike.
So, and they'll match up. I mean, Lenoir, I'm pretty sure, plays exclusively the boundary there. So they'll hit each other a good deal, probably about half the snaps that they play.
Yeah.
So I think Diamador holds his own. I'm just going to say it, but you can go ahead.
We'll see. We'll just have to connect. The Tuesday podcast where we review the college football and NFL slate.
We need to get in with we need to contact the government to find out if there's any other person ever named Aesop that's been born in the United States. EASOP.
100%. And if there hasn't been, it's going to be my son's first. Oh, because he is an Aesop Winston Jr. True. His dad is definitely named Aesop. Let's go to our draft specials. That's going to conclude our kind of previewing the college football slate. Let's get into the NFL. It's what everyone tunes in this podcast for. Well, actually, I don't really know that. I think people like college football prospects right now, but they also like the rookies. Let's get into Devlin.
That's the whole point of the podcast.
The whole point of the podcast.
I would hope you like both.
I hope you like both. 2 for 1. I mean, it's 2 for 1. Let's go into Devlin Duck Hodges. He got the nickname Duck because he makes a good duck call or something. I saw that entire package on Sunday Night Football.
I would say I watched the whole video of him doing the duck call.
Was it fantastic?
It was a pretty damn good
Really?
duck call.
Can you try one for us?
No.
Okay, cool.
You need the duck call thing.
I don't really know how it goes. Okay, Devlin Duck Hodges, 57.9 passing grade. No, on the year. But he was thrown to the Wolves. I don't think it was in a great situation to really have a ton of success in Pittsburgh.
No, but at the same time, he kind of was just the chances he was. We talk a lot about the quarterback position. Take good chances with the football down the football field. So when you have a 1-on-1, that's a good chance. When you have a 2-on-1 or when you're outside the pocket and you're throwing back late, those are bad chances. We saw him take bad chances with the football down the football field. That's not super encouraging. Again, super small sample size. I think he has like 30-something dropbacks so far in his entire career, and was an undrafted free agent rookie. It was not going to go well for him, but there were some nice things. There were some nice. His accuracy was pretty good at this point. The ball placement on the underneath intermediate range was pretty good. I'm going to say that. That's probably the biggest positive you can take away from his performance so far. But yeah, it's still like TBD. For UDFA, it wasn't Nathan Peterman. So
yeah,
that's
he'll be relieved this week though. Mason Rudolph apparently is supposed to be coming back, even though you saw that report. I don't know if you saw the article. He doesn't remember the hit at all. He's coming back.
I would hope not.
Yeah, that's rough. But and he's going against at
I wouldn't
home,
want to.
14-point favorites over the Miami Dolphins. I think that Mason Rudolph, Devlin Duck Hodges gets a little time off. Mason Rudolph comes in, should be able to dice up a little South Beach defense there. Let's go to the offensive line. Jacksonville Jaguars have trotted out Jawan Taylor at right tackle this entire year, and it's been rough, very rough. Trial by fire. He's allowed 6 sacks so far this year. Has a pretty low pass blocking grade. What's your take on this? I was going to say,
so it was rough for a little bit. He faced some good pass rushers. 4 of those sacks came against Von Miller and Cameron Jordan. So
and Cameron Jordan against a rookie offensive tackle like Jawan Taylor is going to feast.
Yeah, a 21-year-old guy. He's still developing his body at this point. Still needed to add some strength to his frame. Cameron Jordan just got underneath him, forklifted him a couple times for a couple sacks. That's going to happen. Yeah, that's going to happen to any rookie offensive tackle. But I think what I saw this past week against Cincinnati, against a more reasonable pass rushing, a more reasonable sort of matchup in terms of this is what you're probably going to see 12 weeks out of the year. You'll see 4 elite pass rushers, but most weeks you'll just see kind of guys in the NFL. Went up against Cincinnati Bengals, and I thought he more than held his own in pass protection against Sam Hubbard there for the Cincinnati Bengals, most of the snaps there. So I liked what I saw from him. Gets out of his sets really quickly, has a good pop in his hands. So I do think that he has had a very encouraging start for a second-round tackle. The second-round tackles, if you thought a guy would play as well as he did, that's so far at this point where he has a 66.1 pass
going against
grade,
the competition he has.
Yes. I think you would have drafted him higher. I think you would have drafted him higher than he.
And we've talked about it in the past too, specifically with the offensive line coming in as a rookie, as young as he is, 21 years old. It's a slow burn. Okay, it takes some time to really come out and have success. I mean, you have like Colton Miller, a rookie, who's already taken a step forward. He's still not fantastic, but Colton Miller has even progressed slightly. Yeah. Even some of the worst offensive tackles as rookies take steps forward. And a guy that needs a step forward sooner rather than later, we're going to go to Miami Dolphins guard. Michael Dieter has been dreadful these past 4 weeks in pass protection. He's allowed 18 total pressures on the year. You look at that game against Dallas, Malik Collins and company, so he got 5.7 pass blocking grade. Oh, man.
He got screwed a little bit in that Dallas game because they flipped him to left tackle mid-game because of injury, and that's just never going to end well. Was a left tackle, I guess, at Wisconsin at times, played center, left tackle, guard there for the Badgers. But the worrisome thing for me, besides the fact that he has a 37.7 overall grade, is that he's just getting overpowered. And this isn't a Jawan Taylor situation where he's 21 years old. This guy was a redshirt senior coming out. He had 5 years to develop. He's 23 years old already. You're not going to get much stronger at this point. And so he has the balance concerns that we had noted coming out, but he also has he's just getting overpowered by guys who probably shouldn't get overpowered. And Jordan Phillips this last week against the Bills was, bull rushing him in the backfield. Jordan Phillips not bull rushed a lot of players over the course of his career. So that, to me, you're not going to fix lack of power at this point in your career when you're 23 years old. That's just going to stick with you.
It's not a weight room thing? And if you don't, it's not like an off-season beef-up kind of thing?
Well, I mean, go ahead, do that.
Try.
Not a lot of guys. Yeah, not a lot of guys. It's just difficult if you don't have a lot of guys. Just you're capped when you're at that sort of age. You're not going to put on a ton more strength to be able to hold up in the NFL. So that, to me, is the most worrisome thing for him because there's other issues, but that one I think is the most difficult that I'm just not sure you're going to fix.
Staying in the trenches here, first-round offensive tackle Caleb McGarry has had a little bit of a slow start for Atlanta. I think talk to me about what you've seen from him. They're not as big concerns as Michael Dieter, but he has not had success.
Yeah, so he is, I think, something like the most. He has what we track. We call them blocks defeated. It's when you lose and it doesn't result in the pressure, a sack, a hit, a hurry. He has the most in the NFL this year because Matt Ryan, quick release, gets the ball out, not really
protected by his
pressure.
quarterback.
Yeah, protected by the quarterback there, a good deal. But he's been beaten to the outside a ton. The outside is not necessarily. I'm not sure it's as fixable as the inside move. You can sort of sit tighter in your pass sets on inside moves, and you can have help to the inside. But he's been beaten to the outside, and to me, it's more of a flexibility thing. He's super tall, and he sits so high in his pass sets at 6'8" that he just hasn't been able to bend and get to guys trying to come around the edge on him, and that's a little worrisome. It's not been great for him right out the gate. Again, it's never going to be great for a lot of rookie offensive linemen, but I think he's been definitely outplayed and looks definitely outplayed by a guy like Juwan Taylor at this point. I'd much rather have Taylor and how he's played and going forward than McGarry at this point.
McGarry was taken at number 31 overall, Taylor 35,
Yeah.
close in where they were, even though one was a first-round pick, the other one a second. Let's go, again, staying in the trenches, hammering offensive line here, specifically rookies we have not talked about on previous podcasts. Cody Ford of Buffalo, the second-round pick, drafted at number 38. These guys all drafted pretty close together. He, coming off a pretty good game against Miami, earned a 75.7 pass blocking grade there. But in games prior, he has shown some weaknesses.
Yeah, I just think he should kick inside at this point. I thought he'd try him at tackle, but he just can't get depth quickly enough. He's 6'3", 329. He's a big-ass dude. Mm-hmm. He's built like a guard. I mean, a lot of guards are that size.
6'3", 329,
But he just can't get out of his stance and get enough depth and then be able to reset and hold up to a bull rush. So he's that big of a guy and has been getting bull rushed and walked back into the pocket just because he's almost out of control coming out of his stance. I'm not sure you fix that. That's more just like an athleticism thing. Either you can get depth or you can't at that size. So I think ultimately I think he'll end up moving inside. 49.6 pass blocking grade so far this year. I think he kicks inside to guard. And I think he can hold up well this year because he's looked good in the run game, in a phone booth, those sort of stuff. He's been better in that regard. But I do think that pass blocking on the edge is just not going to be his thing.
Checking in on Preston Williams, going back to Miami. This guy that kind of lit the preseason on fire. People really got excited about this guy. And to give a little bit of his background, he's always been a very athletic, high-profile dude. 6'4", 210 pounds. I think was a 5-star recruit that originally committed to Tennessee, but then had to move on from that program, go to Colorado State. I want to one little story.
I mean, he was like a third-round type of prospect if he didn't have his off-field stuff.
Exactly. So I want to talk a little bit about the off-field stuff. So when I was diving into his background for last year's draft, this guy was committed to Tennessee, fully committed to Tennessee. He takes an Auburn visit or official visit or whatever it was. He goes to Auburn with other recruits, fully decked out in that burnt orange of Tennessee, like just top to bottom. I think he had a hat, pants, all of it, fully Tennessee. And apparently on the visit, he was recruiting some of the other Auburn recruits on the visit to go to Tennessee. They had to kick him out from the visit early because he was like, coaches were saying he didn't want to be there, was asking kids to join him at Tennessee. Are you kidding me? That's insane. Preston Williams, just to give you an idea on some of that background, I think he was also flagged for potentially cheating on the ACT. Then he goes to Colorado State, breaks all of Colorado State's, not all, but a lot of Colorado State's track records. He did hadn't high hurdled long jump since high school, goes to Colorado State, breaks that record pretty quickly here. This guy's a freakish athlete, on the field, a premier talent. Right now, in Miami, kind of up and down, had a good preseason. Where are you seeing with him?
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of a raw in terms of route running ability, but
raw.
You see it. You see he has made some crazy catches there for the Dolphins so far this season. The athleticism is very much there. But yeah, I think he's sort of just a guy who needs – everyone knew he had the talent. Mm-hmm. Was he going to make the strides? Was he going to make the necessary improvements? Was he going to put in the work? Was he not going to have off-field issues? That's the thing that remains to be seen from him. So we've seen the talent. It's there. Is he going to continue to get better? Again, it's like that. That's what remains to be seen. He's kind of almost in that Antonio Callaway sort of group of it's all there if you want it to be, if he wants to put in the work. That's all. That's the only thing we need to see from him. So this, and updating on him right now isn't that super valuable. Everyone knew he was going to be, not necessarily going to be, but there's been no off-field issues yet. Everyone knows the talent is there. It's just, is it going to be there in a year, 2 years? Is it going to improve? That's what we want to see.
And going back to his last year at Colorado State, dude had a ton of volume. Was targeted, I think, over 130 times there. Had good production. I think you have to hammer home that this guy's potential is very high. Reaching it is a different question. Reaching it is a different skill set. Being committed to get better and learn the playbook even further and all those things, it takes off-field commitment. It takes mental commitment to get better as a player when you do have all the tools like Preston Williams does. Another guy with a ton of tools who has flashed good production so far for the Kansas City Chiefs, Mecole Hardman. To dive in a little bit what we kind of thought about him as a prospect, very explosive, fast off the line of scrimmage, not a polished route runner, still didn't see probably enough one-on-ones. What are you seeing from Mecole?
And then the other big thing was I did not love in terms of contested situation. He was never going to, if you're going to run him on a vertical from the outside, and DB's there at all, I don't think he's going to be. So he needs a free release, needs to needs a guy, like I said, needs free release, needs to be clean off the line of scrimmage, needs to be clean down the football field. But if you give that to him, which Kansas City's offense is great at giving that to him and great at giving that to receivers, he is dynamic. And he's been very dynamic with the ball in his hands, has made some big plays there for the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's still kind of a gimmicky player.
Definitely a gimmicky
still a little bit, but Tyreek Hill is still a gimmicky player his rookie year. So I think there's room to develop here, but you love what he can do with the ball in his hands. You love what he can do from a speed perspective. That always just challenges. Guys have to account for a guy who can run a 4-3 defense, have to account for that. So I'm encouraged by what I've seen from him so far in terms of I think he doesn't have a single drop on the year, if I'm right, which is like
a couple double catches.
Yeah, a couple double catches, but if you haven't dropped the ball, you haven't dropped the ball. So I think that is so we're one drop on the season, one drop on 19. And I was worried about his hands, ball skills, tracking the ball down the football field, but it's made a nice few catches down the field to where I'm higher on him than I was coming out. I think we had him as a late third. He went in the second. I feel like he's impressed me more than I thought I'd see from him. But also a very good situation. But, he's going to win more in KC than he would in, say, Miami's offense.
I'll say this. With Mecole Hardman, I feel like that Tyreek Hill comparison is a little bit lazy for the reason you brought up. Yeah. The contested catch ability. I think Tyreek Hill is surprisingly good in contested catch situations, has a great catch radius, and can go get balls when covered and when blanketed. You saw that against Houston a few weeks ago when he goes and saves Patrick Mahomes from a bad pass in tight coverage and makes that play. I think with Mecole Hardman, he's never really shown that ability. What he has shown is some of the other stuff Tyreek Hill does, like blow people away with his speed and explosiveness. But again, I remember when he was drafted, it's like Tyreek Hill's gone. Like, this is the new Tyreek. I just did not think he was even close to having that same ability, rounded skill set. Another receiver, Arizona Cardinals, Keyshawn Johnson. This guy got a ton of love in the preseason by the Arizona Cardinals coaching staff. I mean, this guy, they were like, we drafted Andy Isabella in the second round. Keyshawn Johnson, we're ready to take Keyshawn Johnson over him. And 1 of 5 on contested targets. I don't think has impressed as much as Arizona was hyping him up.
No. I mean, so he's had 33 targets on the year. Only 2 have gone for 15 or more yards.
Like,
He's just not been – he's kind of just been like just a guy. Like he has just not been anything sort of special. He's fairly good at getting off the line of scrimmage, but he does not have speed to challenge down the football field. He's just a slower wide receiver. And then if you're a slower, bigger wide receiver, you got to make those contested catches. Only one of 5 in those situations. So after all the hype, there's not a ton to get excited about at this point. I mean, only 151 yards on the year, less than 10 yards a catch at this point. It's not good. That's not great.
Alabama tight end, or former Alabama tight end, Irv Smith went to the Minnesota Vikings in the second round. He's played a ton of snaps for this team because they run so much 12 personnel with Kyle Rudolph and him.
Yeah, a ton of snaps for being a second tight end.
Yeah. For being a second tight end, a ton of snaps. However, not a ton of opportunities. Only 14 targets, 12 receptions. He's impressed when given the opportunity, but he's still not a producer in that offense. To be fair, neither was Stephon Diggs to start the year or Adam Thielen. They didn't throw the ball a ton. I think what we've seen, he's made the most of his opportunities, or at least some of the most of his opportunities. I want to see more opportunities to kind of start to really get where he's at.
I mean, he's just far more dynamic than Kyle Rudolph.
I think he's only 21 years old. He's very young.
He's impressed me in terms of receiving ability. He needs to be on the football field more at this point. I think for the Minnesota Vikings, like, he just prevents far more from a matchup perspective that's worrisome.
Than Kyle Rudolph?
Yeah. And
he looks like he's lost a step, by the way. Kyle Rudolph looks slow.
He never really had a step, to be honest. I mean, he ran like a 4.8 or something coming out. So, and he's also been not a liability in run blocking. At 6'2", 242, he has more than held his own. 67.5 run blocking grade for a team that, I mean, he's been on the field almost as many run blocking snaps as pass blocking snaps. So that, I think, is a really encouraging start for his career for Irv Smith here, a guy who kind of panned the pick in the second round. It's like, we have bigger needs than a second tight end at number 50 overall, but I think he has exceeded expectations. I think he's, is very well in line for more snaps going forward.
Staying in Minnesota, Alexander Mattison backing up a very good Dalvin Cook this year. Has had some highlight plays.
I'm just gonna like take a step back. You just go ahead. You go ahead for your boy.
I do like Alexander Mattison a lot. I liked him a lot going into the NFL draft. I highlighted him as, I remember you had me, you were saying, hey, can you look at these like group of running backs in the pre-draft process? And I dove into these guys. And Alexander Mattison was one of my favorites of the group you gave me, kind of some day 2, day 3 names. I think Alexander Mattison, what I love, wanted to get better. I interviewed the guy, wanted to get better. Very smart kid. I think he was bilingual by by 5th grade, and really understood. When I talked to him, I was like, "What role do you see yourself in the NFL?" He said, "I know the NFL doesn't have these bell cow backs anymore. I need to do everything and contribute on any phase of the game: passing or receiving, pass blocking, rushing." And I think he's shown so far this year that he can contribute in positive ways when he is backing up Dalvin Cook. Has 12 first down runs, 11 runs of 10 or more yards, and 10 missed tackles in limited opportunities. I think Madison looks very good. good and has played well to start, especially for a third-round pick. And I think he's just scratching the surface as well. You give him more opportunities behind that offensive line, I think he gets better.
The one thing I'll say about him is I've been watching Vikings game. And I've said, oh, that was a nice run by Dalvin Cook, and it wasn't. It was Alexander Madison.
They
so
do
that's
all
the highest compliment you can pay.
So hear me out on this. I have a theory. Dalvin Cook, Mike Boone, and Alexander Madison all look very similar in uniform when you can't see the numbers straight. And I think they wear similar numbers as well. I get confused just as much as you. And I think for the defense, they're not having as much fun either. I think there's a similar theory in the Eagles. Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert look very similar, have an 86 and an 88. That can't be easy for defenses to immediately diagnose which guy it is, but it's interesting. But Alexander Madison
I think that's
has looked like Dalvin Cook.
That's an untapped resource to make your font just unreadable.
Yeah,
just like they all look the same. Well, who is that? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think some Eagles receivers, some Eagles tight ends, other tight ends, those numbers, if they look similar, they're just trying to catch the defense off guard. But Madison has looked good. Another backup running back that looks good and probably should be starting, and they should have moved on from Ezekiel Elliott, not paid him $90 million. Tony Pollard of Memphis, he's a guy who played majority slot receiver at Memphis in the year prior because of Darrell Henderson being there, but they're putting him in traditional running back sets, and he's having success. He looks explosive, very elusive. I loved that run that he had this past week. I think he's a guy that if they let Ezekiel Elliott hold out, like Melvin Gordon in Los Angeles, I think you do have the same success as they've had to start this year.
Yes.
I would agree 100% with that.
I mean, he is 12 broken tackles on 45 attempts so far this year and 3.84 yards after contact per attempt.
That's very good.
I mean, those are ridiculously good numbers. There's not a lot of reason to believe in terms of his athleticism, his production over at Memphis, that he would not have been as equal or better than what we've seen from Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott only 19 broken tackles on 135 attempts.
That's always been Ezekiel Elliott, though. We've wrote pieces in the past because people are like yelling at our running back rates, but the dude doesn't break tackles at the same rate as other players in the NFL. Yeah. And he doesn't have to with the offensive line he's had in the past.
Zeke only one carry over 20 yards this year. Pollard only one carry over 20 yards this year.
Way less opportunities. Yeah. To pay Ezekiel Elliott as much as they did and be committed to him as long as they are is incredible, considering how replaceable the position is and how you already brought in a guy like Tony Pollard who could do the same things as Ezekiel Elliott can. And I think Pollard's a better pass-catching back, too. He has experience running routes away from the traditional running back alignment. I'm hammering home Tony Pollard and Alexander Madison, though I think Cook should be starting in Minnesota.
Yes,
Dalvin Cook
we can agree on that. Yeah.
But he also is ranked inside the top 5 in PFF's elusive rating, inside the top 5 in rushing grade, because he creates yards for himself. I feel like I find myself saying that a lot on like random radio hits and things like that, asking about running backs and how they add value. It's when you can create yards for yourself, by yourself, with yards after contact and forced missed tackles, not dependent on offensive line and scheme. That's going to do it for our draft specials from the NFL, the rookies. We're going to dive into our micro.
We'll do defense next week.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's right. So that was all offensive players, all rookies that we kind of haven't talked about a ton. But next week, Tuesday, tune in. We're going to be talking about some of the defensive players, defensive rookies specifically in the NFL that we haven't brought up on the podcast, but want to kind of level set.
We'll probably do it Thursday, actually.
Thursday? Okay, fine. We'll do it Thursday, man. You're running the show guest now. All right, whatever. Maybe we should switch seats. Anyway, we'll talk about those guys Thursday, and we'll be through 8 weeks of football, the halfway point of the NFL. So it'll be interesting. Microbrew segment time. This is a small school prospect. Probably haven't heard about a ton, that is grading well in the PFF system or has at least flashed some potential in the PFF system. Talk to me about Liberty wide receiver. Liberty. Where is Liberty? First, start me with that. Where is Liberty?
I don't know.
I don't even know either.
Northeast somewhere, I'm guessing.
So Liberty wide receiver Antonio Gandy Golden, name scouting to a T.
Liberty, it feels like it should be in Philadelphia, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll look into Liberty. Okay. You tell me about this guy, Gandy Golden.
All right, Antonio Gandy Golden, 6'4", 220, already big body receiver. Already that goes in your head. And he has, I was impressed with his releases off the line of scrimmage. He's a little quicker, more sudden than I expected right out the gate. Now his long speed, I think, leaves a little bit to be desired. That he's averaging 20.3 yards per catch this year. I think it's a little bit fake in terms of Liberty. This is their first year as an FBS school. Well, they were like provisionary FBS in 2018, full FBS this year, but they still basically just play all FCS schools as a FBS independent. So not great competition, but you go back and watch Syracuse game where he went for 119 yards. I think his releases off the line of scrimmage in that game against Syracuse corners not exceptional, but they're still FBS corners. I think were pretty impressive. for a larger wide receiver. What I've seen from him, I like more than a guy like even Colin Johnson at Texas.
Oh, wow.
Which, high praise. I'm not.
What
super
about
high on
even
Colin
more
Johnson.
than Isaiah Hodgins, too? That's another guy
More
that's
than
great.
Isaiah Hodgins as
So
well. So this guy is an interesting little prospect.
If you are a draft
not a little
pundit-
prospect, he's huge. He's 6'4", 220. You can probably kill me with his bare hands if you want to.
Ooh.
But that I think Antonio Gandy-Golden probably could be a day 2 guy.
Name rolls off the tongue as well. Antonio
Interesting.
Gandy-Golden is fantastic. One,
Name's
Liberty
got it,
is
yeah.
located in Lynchburg, Virginia. Two, if you
I'm
are
so
a,
close.
if you are a draft pundit, I would definitely recommend turning on the tape if you can find Liberty tape. I don't know if those get posted to YouTube or not. Then we're going to bring up Khalil Mack's little brother. Plays at Buffalo, wears 52. Ladarius Mack. Bring him up because this past week earned a very high grade in PFF system going against school's eluding me. It was not a good school, but Akron. It was Akron. It goes against Akron. Showed some nice. I like his hands a little bit. I don't think he's the same level of athlete as Khalil Mack. I think you notice that almost immediately, but no one really is.
Just like, what is always Von Miller? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But with Ladarius Mack, he did have a nice spin move against Akron. Find that play. I don't know if that one's on YouTube either, but find that play. Dude rips the right tackle. By the time he's sacking the quarterback, the right tackle's on his hands and knees, facing the opposite end zone. Just I think he's crying. You can't tell on the All-22, but I do think he's crying. Ladarius Mack, I think it was the first time I watched a full game of him, and I was very impressed with. I feel like there was some polish there I wasn't expecting from Buffalo, a guy in a Buffalo uniform.
Yeah, he's still not great, though, as a prospect.
Yeah,
I mean, he's still kind of like, we're
Wow.
talking about his prospects. He's still, I don't think he's going to play edge at 6'1", 240.
No. He
Probably
looks
off
small,
ball.
too. He looks small.
Yeah, he does. And he's, like you said, not near the athlete. his
I will
brother
say
is.
this, though. His face looks a lot like Khalil Mack's.
They do.
So,
and he wears 52, which, like,
I feel like you have to factor
you
in
can't
at some
really
point.
throw 52 on if you're not going to live up to, if you're not going to play like Khalil, man.
I think I would have to agree with you there. All right, last segment of the podcast. This has been fantastic, by the way. I'm really, really looking forward to the end here. It's a local IPA. This is going to be from a bigger school, a Power 5 school, a sleeper maybe, someone that maybe you've been drinking Rheingeist, to quote Cincinnati. You've been drinking some Mad Tree, but this one's a smaller brewery in Cincinnati. You should probably know about it. You just ordered it. It's Demetric Felton Felton of UCLA, the running back. We don't talk about running backs a lot, so this guy must be pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's a redshirt junior. UCLA doesn't get a bulk of the carries there. It's like plays half slot, half running back, but is one of my favorite route runners among the running backs in this draft class. If he does come out, I think he does have another year of eligibility, so not necessarily has to come out, but already 33 catches this year for 422 yards. Go back to the Washington State game where he went for 150. I mean, he just is a nightmare for linebackers to cover. He's a little smaller at 185, and he can get up into the 190s. Like a little smaller version of Tony Pollard is probably the best way to describe him. He's a little shifty, but I think he has the modern NFL game. And when we talked about this a good deal before, we're going to like these guys more than your traditional bell cow, A.J. Dillon running backs. We're going to prefer these guys because these guys win in the NFL. These guys provide value. A.J. Dillon's very replaceable.
And I think you brought it up right at the beginning. We brought up a running back, and the first thing you said, his route running looks really good. And I think that's where we're at with running back value right now. A.J. Dillon may have tree trunks for legs, but if you're not adding value as a receiver and can create separation on routes and be that mismatch all offenses are chasing right now, it's hard to project that you'll have legitimate value, non-replaceable value in the NFL.
And it's like, A.J. Dillon will gain 4 yards on an inside zone handoff between the tackle where someone else might gain 3. This guy will gain 60 yards on a sort of a
quick screen or something like that.
on an angle route where someone else might gain 10. So that's a big difference.
A.J. Dillon on an angle route. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that? Oh man, that's a big angle.
I was gonna say it's more of a curve.
Yeah, there's no way he's cutting that one too tough there. And with A.J. Dillon though, I will say he probably provides more body blows. You're getting body blows per touch way more with A.J. Dillon.
Now we're getting into the advanced. Now we're getting into
that's in PFF Super Elite. That's another subscription. It's not even worth bringing up the cost of body blows per touch, by the way. But again, that's going to do it for the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast, the Thursday one. And remember, you can catch us live on YouTube Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're also available on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. But that's going to do it. Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, 2-for-1 Drafts.